So here we are again. Time for tea talk. And what we're really doing is just having a bit of a review of the Goathland Waterfalls walk, aren't we?
Yes. Yes, yesterday's walk.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing for me is I was sort of pleased that the weather wasn't as wasn't as sunny as it was supposed to be, but I found it quite humid, borderline too warm for me.
Yeah, it was extremely humid, and when the sun came out, it was that intense.
Well, going across some of the moor was really hot.
Yeah.
But anyway, just to go through it, a bit of a review. So we've got some instructions, should we call them, directions, narrative, whatever you want to call it. But I couldn't find a GPX that actually matched that, no matter where I looked.
I think it was actually on a hotel website, so it was probably just somebody's.
Well, an overriding thing to mention is that when we took those directions, we weren't going in what you would normally see as being the public footpaths. There was just little routes off. So a GPX would have been really handy for that walk. But anyway, we
didn't have too many.
We only made one error really.
Yeah.
But we decided not to park in Goathland, didn't we?
We did, not in the main, the central car park, not this time of the year.
So we parked a little way out of the village. Only 2 weeks ago, sorry.
No, I was going to say we did see the ranger parks up there, so we were all right.
Oh, saw him later.
Where we were parked, we weren't.
But I thought it was funny. It took me back that at 9:15, 9:30, there was a group of lads that had clearly been on the beer for a while, out in the garden of, let's hope it was a holiday let, having a pretty good time.
Music and playing. I think they were playing cricket, so it's all.
Yeah, the music was quite loud, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we thought it was good how they were a few hundred yards outside of the village, but was it an hour later we heard them?
Yeah. It was just been the wind.
Yeah, so it was really carrying. But that was good. And then we saw that tree. What was the tree?
The George V Memorial. Well, Silver Jubilee
tree.
In its own little compound.
Yeah, I didn't think it'd been looked after or tended to very well at all.
And the tree didn't look overly brilliant, but that's a little bit of a exposed area of the moorland, isn't it? So it's it's kind of taken its toll on it.
And then of course we saw Mallyan Spout Hotel.
And that car park was rammed for so obviously they were all guests, weren't they?
Yeah,
they were there for breakfast.
This is probably a popular, and for the next 2 or 3 weekends or weeks, people taking advantage of the children not being on holiday yet. So people that haven't got children or want to break away from the children probably take the opportunity to go away, which is fair enough. And then next to there, of course, is that we've only been once, haven't we? But because it's not certainly not for us. It's not an everyday place.
It's a special occasion place, isn't it?
Is it called The Homestead?
The Homestead Kitchen, yeah.
Which is a lovely restaurant. So off from there, we went on to, is it the Centenary Walk?
It is, past the church, Centenary Walk.
Not on that for long before my first bite of the year from a horsefly, which I got early. So if I just feel, so there's a lump on my leg, but it didn't draw blood. So we did get that pretty early, but was it this morning? It was. Oh, it's actually getting worse now. Look at it. Oh, so on my arm, on my forearm, there's a, we'll call it a bite, but it's a single puncture hole, isn't it?
With a bruise, that's
and the bruise that's all the way around, and now has gone, all the way around. But I can't feel it. There's no pain at all.
Jury's out as to really, okay.
We're pretty convinced it's not a tick. Tick doesn't bruise. So I think it was a horsefly or something else. But anyway, worse things can happen on a walk, so as we know, so not too bad. And then we went through that campsite.
It was quite an extensive campsite, really, wasn't it?
It was massive.
Very
4 or 5 different big fields.
We saw a chap. It was a camper van, wasn't it? And he had a solar array set up, and it said it sorted him right out, didn't it?
Yeah, just down on the ground.
Yeah, definitely. Which was.
But van life people now, cracker, they can stay out for months. Well, people live in the Burnley, don't they?
Do, absolutely.
So from there, we had a little bit of a trot, crossed our first road, didn't we? And then we headed down into Goathland. So we kind of skirted around Goathland up to then, hadn't we? Where greeting us in the station was, it wasn't really the Hogwarts Express, was it? But, you know, given that that train station is in the films as
Hogsmead Station.
Hogsmead Station. We called it the Hogwarts Express, didn't we?
We did. But there is a Hogwarts Express, but that train
sure.
pulling it wasn't. But anyway.
But they play on that fact, don't they?
They do.
So waited because we're supposed to cross the track.
And then decided to take a little meander up the platform, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Where I asked, because...
Spoke to a guard.
Well, I spoke to a guard, just asked him how long it took to take on water. And when he said, about 20 minutes, I said, crikey, we've got to cross these tracks. He said, well, you can take the bridge. To which you said, yeah, we can take the bridge. I was like, I never even thought. Never thought. So, across the bridge, and then on the other side, it is pretty much set up as a, should we call it heritage station?
Yeah.
It's got the shop that's now selling everything Harry Potter you can imagine, but that Weybridge office,
that was sweet.
They've got set up.
Yeah, all
as if
sorts
it was
of
the,
little knickknacks.
You know, the clock was right, the calendar was right.
Yeah. Looked like he just had his snap and his brew. No, it was.
And then my first error of the day was we carried on into the village, only for me to then read ahead and realise that we didn't need to cross the tracks or go into the village at all, because we'd started the walk
3/4 of the way around.
Yeah. So back through the station and up and carried on the actual path we were on, which was fine. And then, of course, how many steps did we go down?
That's it, yeah.
Realising that, of course, going down meant that we had to go up. And that was that first set of steps, because there were steps, weren't they? And you know how, I know you don't like them, but I hate steps.
Going down is worse for me.
And that first incline back up, again, the sun was just starting to really punish us and everything like that. And
because we had a spit spot earlier on.
We did.
It was pleasant earlier on.
But I felt
wasn't
that first incline back up.
And that sort of set the tone as to how difficult it was going to be. Because it was a moderate walk for me. It wasn't easy at all.
Yeah, it wasn't like last weekend that we called challenging, did we? But it wasn't easy either. Was it 2,200 feet ascent? It was plenty.
But we kept going up and down, that was the thing.
Yeah. So, carried on there. So, got to the top of the first real incline. And it was from there that we were only another few hundred yards that we were supposed to see the first waterfall. But I obviously took us wrong, because we didn't.
It said literally down in the valley by the beck, you'll catch a glimpse of your foot, but no, we didn't.
But we did follow the right path then to go down to the weir, that horrible bridge across the...
there was a bridge under a bridge, wasn't there?
There was. So what was it? It was a footbridge that was very narrow under the railway bridge that was over the...
That was...
Are we calling it a beck?
Well, I think it is, yeah.
A bit more over the beck. And of course, over that and straight back, just to do it, as it were.
Yeah.
And then back round, with Beck Hole being our next destination. But before we got to Beck Hole, of course, we passed that strange holiday let.
With the Halloween decorations still on the wall.
Just like Alton Towers.
I know.
People don't see that, do they? I mean, give it that it's how long since we were in Alton Towers? 11 years? Yeah. Apparently the decorations stay up. And that, I think, when we saw the signs, it said the Model Centre. And I
had a quick look.
I did last night, I was curious. And there was massive sheds. And when you looked on their website, I think they're a big online business. It was everything. So
from Matchbox cars?
Yeah, absolutely. Die-cast, Hornby, on their pictures, they've even got little farm animals that people obviously put on their
model railway setups.
Lovely. And things like that. But then, again, a first for us when we got to Beck Hole, which is a tiny village, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean...
Dozen houses?
Tops. And the pub that seemed to open
wasn't open
Once
at
a week.
all on Saturday, which was odd for us, wasn't it? But at Beckhole, go on, you explain what was found at Beckhole.
Well, we saw these. I mean, at a glance, they reminded me of an old-fashioned garage where the guys go down into the pit, because it was the wooden slats across, but then they had those hefty covers on them.
Yeah.
And then I saw
At the top
one,
of a beehive, but a lot bigger.
you know, probably 4 foot by 4 foot.
Yeah.
And then I looked and I thought, well, there's actually 6 of these. And we're scratching our heads. Well, is it where the water comes in? What happens here?
Because I said about wells.
Yeah.
And I said, why would you have six wells?
And why have they got
water?
wooden boards and then these big things? And then I looked up and across on the other side, it was Coyte's cottage.
Yeah.
Found a little display board. There's a wonderful league. They're playing Leal home next week. So yeah, there's obviously a thriving.
Well, again,
Coytes.
I looked last night, and yeah, there was pictures and trophies, and I mean, it's clearly, I don't know, I'll say centuries old. I mean, that's probably a strong bit, but they've played it around there for a long
Throughout the
time.
moors. Yeah.
For a long time, but in such a small village.
I know.
And as I say, we've never come across it, but yeah, Coyte's Courts.
That was fascinating.
So that was very good. And of course, Beckhole is the village that you go off on a there and back kind of path to go to see Thomason Foss waterfall. And all I would say about Thomason Foss waterfall is tick. We've seen it. I don't think I ever need to go back to it.
No, that caught me out a bit. It was longer, harder to get to than I imagined. The path is eroding.
Yeah.
The gorse is overgrown.
Yeah.
And then it was boggy.
Yeah.
And the bridge was a bit dodgy, or the boardwalk that was in had disintegrated.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not a massive fan of, I called it a there and back path. You know, the there has to be worth the same trip back, because we don't do there and back walks. We do circular walks generally.
Absolutely. And for me, you know, being as I am, the fact that we'd had to push past on that very narrow, at the edge of the precipice, you know, the gorse and everything. I've got to do that on the way back.
Yeah.
And it was harder on the way back because it was my other side, and it was my arm, not my rucksack, that was getting prickled. And I know that sounds a bit moany, but it was.
For the couple that were in the water, in the
they
waterfall
were loving
swimming,
it, weren't
I bet
they?
they absolutely loved it.
Absolutely loving it. And it was, absolutely, it was a proper waterfall.
Yeah, but when we came back to the village and we passed that couple, we stopped for a drink, didn't we? And there was a couple coming towards us, and they said, "Are you going up or down?"
Yes.
Because they didn't know which way we
Yeah,
were
because
going.
we were just standing, weren't we?
We
said,
asked
no,
them,
we've been.
I think we kind of persuaded them not to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the woman had a pristine pair of white
White
trainers on.
on.
I mean, they were clearly walkers, but not, let's call it off-road walkers.
And when we went further down that path that they'd come along, we realised that was a very nice, genteel path, wasn't it? So they were out for a stroll. So I think he was pleased that we described it, and she agreed.
But between there and the next waterfall is Mallyan Spout. I mean, can you remember those steps we went up? And as everyone knows, we film our walks, but of course we turned around because there was kids coming down, but they were bounding down, weren't they? Those kids. But then when we got to that sign that says Mallyan Spout 130 metres, which was at kind of a crossroads, where obviously an easy walk that was all boardwalk comes to there. We approached it from a different direction. That was a different situation for us, wasn't it, with all those people?
Well, there wasn't much evidence of folk there when we arrived, apart from it was so well trodden. It was unbelievably well trodden. And also on the finger post, the 3-way finger post, it said, in case of emergency, call Yorkshire Air Ambulance. So I thought, oh heck, it said just below it. And it said, say Scarborough and Rydale to the operative on 999.
So you're suggesting that it was
thinking
regularly...
that obviously there's, probably some inappropriateness in the footwear department.
Well, who did we see? There was a family of, was it 4 or 5 ahead of us? And the daughter girl was probably 4, 5. Ahead of them was 2 couples that, again, didn't have the right footwear on. Neither did the family, in fairness.
No.
Because you're scrambling over wet boulders. There's that many people that when there's mud between, they're then putting the mud on the boulders, which is making them wet.
Extra slippy.
There's plenty of places where you have to wait for people to come through if they're
But
going in the
you're
direction.
sort of clinging back, looking like Spider-Man.
Not ideal. But those 2 couples had 2 dogs. One of those, in fact, both of those dogs, further on in the walk, literally pulled one of the guys up a hill. He didn't have to do anything. The dogs were pulling that much. They were on leads. Well, they were on leads eventually. Now
one
we
of the
have got
wives said
nothing against dogs and dog walkers and things like that, because the vast majority are very, very conscientious and everything. But that little girl, they had to turn back because she was scared. Because when the dogs were playing up, she was frozen on a boulder
that was bigger than her.
Yeah,
so
she didn't want to go any further.
She couldn't cope with the climbing that she had to do with the dogs in the area as well.
I don't know what you do about that, because the 2 couples with the dogs, they were having a good time. They were enjoying themselves.
And they were under control. You
yeah.
can't, we know about children being scared of dogs. It's a thing you have to deal with, and you can't rationalise them with them, really, can you? It's a very deep-seated fear. So.
But anyway.
Yeah.
All that, we did have a couple of minutes where there was only us.
Yep.
Quite nice, and a rare thing now, that woman offered to take her photo before she left us.
Yeah, that was very nice. Of both of us, which is.
But the waterfall it's like a fine mist shower, isn't it?
It is.
Overhead shower, would you call it?
Yeah.
What do they call it?
Rainfall.
Rainfall shower. Yeah. That's what they call them, isn't it? But that's what it was, because it doesn't really touch the back wall that it's on, does it?
No, and it was quite ethereal when you sort of looked up at it, but it was so dodgy underfoot that I didn't really look up that much. I was trying to keep my balance.
No, I know
you couldn't sort of find a spot where you could just stand
the
back.
one thing we've not said, it's such a small area, isn't it?
Really narrow.
If it was 5 yards square where people can gather to be at the base of the waterfall, that's all it is. And of course the beck's there, the river, so you can't go that side. No. So it is a small area.
There's plenty of water there, so in between, I think that's another thing that freaked that child out, that there was a lot of water there that you had to step in and step over.
Yeah, sure enough.
No, it was nice to go and see it.
Again, I would go there again.
It attracts.
I'd like to go there in the winter, actually.
Yeah.
We do an awful lot of walking down in the winter, so. But from there, I'll say we were supposed to go to Nelly Ayre Foss, but we had from there was a little walk, wasn't there, through the wood that's at the side of the.
Well, after yes, I'm jumping ahead. Yeah, that was steady away. You got your breath back, didn't you? From
that was nice.
The frenetics of.
Which was quiet for us.
Yeah. And people had spread out there, hadn't they? So that was.
Yeah, but then we caught them up, of course.
At the bottom of.
That's the. I thought it was, well, I say funny. I told him to go steady, but that guy, who was, he was younger than us, but he wasn't a youngster, and he let his, was it an Alsatian, kind of pull him up, and he was bounding away, and he lost his footing.
Yeah.
And he stumbled. And it could have been, it could have been bad, but
all he needed was for that dog to stop, because he was because did you hear him say to his mate, "It's great, this." Relying on that dog pulling him up, basically.
Absolutely.
Poof, I know. So we sort of let them go ahead, and we gave them a wide berth, because we'd been
slow and steady,
just plodding on,
because
they were tricky
and then carried on.
It was
And then a bit through the moor, which had got a 10-foot wide path cut through the bracken.
Yeah.
So that's how popular it is. I mean, where we normally walk in the moors, certainly in winter, you can't find it.
You're walking like a tightrope, aren't you? Because you're putting one foot literally in front of the other.
6 inch wide.
And that way you could see that there, because it did drop off onto that original bit that obviously is how it is in the winter.
But we did follow the route to where you're supposed to just exit a footpath to go to Nelly Ayre Foss, but it was me that basically said, I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's on the strength of that Thomason Foss. I didn't want to see, do a mile there and a mile back and get to the actual thing and then go, is that it?
Yeah. And also, we've alluded to this before, you do need to listen to yourself and listen to your body and think, well, no, we're getting towards the end of 9 miles now.
First walk in heat.
It's been, yes, in heat. Have you taken enough water on? Probably not. We don't,
well, we don't, because we don't drink before an incline.
No.
Sometimes when you get to the top, we just want to get back onto the flat to get your breath
going,
back.
and then another half an hour can have gone and you've not rehydrated, have you?
But rarely, well, here you go. So we had our second sandwich, didn't we? There, between those two, after we got after Mallyan.
Yeah, so go up to the...
And we can do, half as much again and not need a second sandwich.
Yeah.
So we clearly burnt a lot of calories. But
like you say, that was absolutely...
listen to your body, listen to...
Yeah. We can just, if we feel the need, we can just go to that spot and do that bit in the future, can't we? But
well, it's easy to get to, we know the way.
Yeah. And it's near the road now, isn't it? When you realise where the road is.
Bad motorhome.
And there's, yes.
I mean, as hopefully motorhomes of the future, I mean, that looked like it'd been there months.
It did.
And I'll tell you what was funny as well. So when we're walking back to where the car was parked, which was only, a mile from there?
Yeah, I didn't realise at the time, but yeah.
There was that couple walking, but she was pushing a pushchair and he was, let's say, well behind her. And he'd stopped, hadn't he?
Yeah.
To take her...
What's he doing?
Well, we assumed to have a look at something, but it turns out when we got there, we suspect he was taking a photo of...
A squished adder.
A squished adder. So...
In full slither.
Yeah.
Literally was S-shaped,
if you ask a kid to draw a snake...
Yeah, but not pancake
Squished,
flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
second adder of the
bear in mind,
season.
that's only my second adder ever.
Yeah.
But my first thought was, how unlucky is a snake to be slithering across? And it wasn't a main... I mean, it's a track.
It's a dead-end road. It goes to one house.
It's a single-track road in the true sense of the word. As in more on both sides. I mean... There's no passing places, so you have to see that no one's coming to you for a mile.
Yeah, because you can't pull off.
Can't pull off into that. But there it was, squished.
Yeah.
So carried on there, down then, and we could see the car probably from 300, 400 yards away. And we could just hear evidence, couldn't we, of the boys still?
We could, yes.
So what did we think? We assumed that they'd been at it all day. And actually what they were doing, as you could see, was that a couple of taxis rocked up.
Did a big minibus and then a saloon car.
And your first question was, is he going to let them go on with those cans and bottles in their hand? Which we thought would have been hilarious. I mean, taxi drivers in Doncaster used to let you do anything. You could eat a kebab in a taxi. But of course, as we drove past, the cans and bottles that they obviously walked out the house with were on the bumper of their own car,
yes,
we have to say.
Left them
We can only assume they're going to Whitby. Let's hope they had a good time. So all in all, I enjoyed it. It was harder than I thought. I'm going to put that down to the weather. I'm going to put it down to some pretty good inclines on steps, which really takes it out of my knees.
And for me, some of this, because they're uneven and some of the steps, the pitch is so high, I'm lifting my little leg, my knee above my hip, and then pushing up. So it really is tiring.
Yeah, maybe we do look at some polls and see if they're going to help us. But it's something we've threatened to do for a long time.
A long time, yeah.
We've done it. I'm pleased we did it.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well,
enjoyed.
Here's to the next walk.